Huge changes are in store for Wednesday as she gets transferred to supernatural boarding school Nevermore. Hello, entertainment enthusiasts. This is Ray, and this is the Fandom Realm. And today I'm going to start my review of our second new series, and that is Wednesday. This is episode number 1. As always, this is a spoiler review, so just be warned. So we're going to get started off with this episode as Wednesday is heading off to school. She's going to be walking into a school called Nancy Reagan High School. And with that, she is going to head off through the hallways. As she's walking down the hall of the school, she's going to head off to her brother's locker. And that's when she's going to find that he has been locked in his locker by somebody. As she gets him out, she is going to have a vision. It seems like that is going to be a power she has for the season. And she's going to see that it was the swim team who bullied him and put him in the locker. So she's going to head off for revenge. And she actually buys some souped up looking piranha type fish and dumps them in the swim team, or actually it was the water polo team. She dumps the souped up piranha into the swimming pool and they chase the polo team, and they're going to injure some of them. And we find out later on some of those injuries. We're going to flash to a new scene where we're in the car with the Addams family, including Wednesday. Pugsley is there. Also, Morticia is in the car. She is sitting beside Gomez, and they are singing to each other, all romantic, driving Wednesday sort of crazy. She doesn't like this. She actually is going to end up responding that it makes her nauseous and not in a good way. So they're headed off to Nevermore, and they're going to pass a vehicle, a truck, and there's a man and woman in it, and she actually drops off the guy into the forest near Nevermore. There's a trail that he takes to go home. While he's on that trail, he's going to sit down to eat, and he has a situation happen where we're going to hear something coming his way, or at least he's going to be suspicious of something coming his way. Next, we get to see the Addams family drive into Nevermore. We're going to flash to a scene with our principal and the Addams family, and she is telling them that they are going to allow Wednesday into the school, although they normally don't do that for people coming in second semester. But because of the family's long history with the school and Wednesday's perfect grades, they're going to allow her in. It's also revealed that the principal was the roommate of Morticia when she was at the school. Now that they've gotten into the school, we're going to have the principal take Wednesday off to her room to meet her roommate, and that's going to be very interesting because the roommate very much lives in color. She's one of those cheery type people, lots of color. She's also a werewolf, and so Wednesday's a little bit sickened by all that. As they go in and see the room, we do find out that her roommate's name is also Enid. Enid's going to take Wednesday to show her around the school. They're going to head directly down into the courtyard, and she's going to point out the different groups of sort of supernatural creatures that are there. And some of those would be fangs, which of course are vampires, the furs, which are werewolves, also sirens. We also find out there are gorgons there. And so we are also going to get introduced to Xavier, who we don't know yet, but she actually knows who he is. He's painting a black, it looks like Raven on the wall when she sees him. Moving on, it's time for the Addams family to leave. They actually go in and they actually show them leaving at the end. Morticia is going to talk to Wednesday, and it's clear they don't have a very good mother-daughter bond. As the car pulls away with the Addams family, Gomez is going to hit a button, and it drops Thing out the bottom of the car. He's leaving Thing behind to help Wednesday out. Now we're going to flash back to the woods, and the sheriff and police are in the woods because the guy who had left on the trail earlier has been torn apart, and basically they just blame it on a bear, or at least to the public. But it's not the first murder in those woods. Moving back into the school and to their dorm room, Wednesday has actually done some changes. She has made half the room black, the other half is colorful, and Enid doesn't really like that. but she doesn't really have anything she can do about it. Wednesday is going to be typing. She tells Enid that she's typing a book. Enid is actually going to start playing some music that Wednesday doesn't like. Wednesday's going to look like she was going to cross the room and turn it off, but Enid reveals her werewolf claws. Just as all this is going on, the door is going to open, and in comes the house mistress, Miss Thornhill. Miss Thornhill is going to basically go over the rules with Wednesday and tells her, don't make any trouble. She's going to end up leaving, and we're going to come to the fencing practice where one of the students, Queen Bee is what they call her, of the school, is going to be fencing Rowan, and of course her name is Bianca, and Bianca is going to get the best of Rowan. He's not very good. It doesn't look like he practices very much, and she looks to be probably the top fencer there. So, of course, Wednesday is going to challenge her, and they go at it. Wednesday scores the first point, Bianca scores the second point, and then they're going to have the last point be scored in military fashion, which means no tips on the sabers and no masks. And after a pretty nice little fight, Bianca's actually going to slash a little cut on Wednesday's face, and so Bianca wins. And I thought this was very interesting because this sort of sets up a rivalry between Bianca and Wednesday from the very beginning. When Enid was telling Wednesday about life at the school, she mentioned how Bianca was sort of like royalty, but her star was fate. So we're going to skip on to the infirmary, and Rowan is there while Wednesday is being patched up because of the cut on her head. They're going to discuss a few things, and then we're going to move on. Wednesday is leaving, going back to her room. As she walks outside, one of the gargoyles on the roof is going to fall towards her. She's going to be pushed out of the way and saved by Xavier. Next scene, Wednesday is waking up in the infirmary, and Xavier is there to talk to her. It's going to be revealed at this point that Xavier and Wednesday actually knew each other. Xavier had been rescued by Wednesday when they were much smaller. When his grandmother died, they had been playing hide and go seek, and he hid in the casket. And the casket was about to go into the fire to be cremated, and Wednesday's going to stop it, and she saves his life. Now, next quick scene is Wednesday discovering Thing, and she's going to catch Thing and make it swear loyalty to her, and that's what it does. We're going to move the next scenes into the town. The principal, Ms. Weems, played by Gwendolyn Christie, is going to be taking her into town to talk to a therapist that was mandated after what she did to the water polo guys, and she's going to drop her off at the therapist's office, and of course Wednesday and the therapist don't get along at all. Wednesday is eventually going to sneak into the bathroom and gets out the window. She bumps into a farmer while she's trying to escape. She does have a vision of that farmer dying in a horrific car accident, but she's going to move on. She goes to a coffee shop, and while she's there, she goes up to order some coffee, and it turns out the machine is broken, and this is where we are going to meet Tyler, and Tyler is the cashier, and Wednesday's actually going to help him fix the basically cappuccino machine, and they're going to hit it off a little bit to start with. Wednesday actually gives him her name, and so that is a big plus. Wednesday's going to get her coffee. She's going to go sit at a seat because she's actually trying to get Tyler to take her after he gets off work to the train so she can get out of town. But in comes these younger guys dressed as pilgrims from an amusement park called Pilgrim's World, and they're going to throw some insults back and forth, and it's going to end up Wednesday has to beat them all up, and she does. And as she finishes, of course, Tyler comes up, and we see the sheriff come in, and the sheriff is Tyler's dad. The sheriff is going to figure out that Wednesday is an Addams. He tells her that her dad should have been locked up, and that's when Ms. Weems is going to come in, and she's found Wednesday, and so she's going to get her out of the situation. As Ms. Weems and Wednesday are heading home, they're actually going to pass a car accident, and it's the farmer and the scene that we saw from Wednesday's earlier vision. We're going to skip back to the school, and we're going to start seeing Wednesday playing the cello. A lot of people have made a big deal out of her playing this cello. It's all over, especially TikTok, but she's playing the cello, and we're going to go through a montage of scenes. One of those scenes is we're going to see Rowan in the library. He has magic. He basically pulls a book to him using magic, and he pulls out a picture of a girl that looks similar to Wednesday. We're going to see Tyler going through his dad's files, and he's going to find Gomez Addams' file. He's later going to give that to Wednesday. We also get to see Tyler's dad with a crime board on the wall showing all of the different victims that they have found in the forest. When Wednesday is done with her cello, Enid's going to walk out, and they're going to have a discussion. It turns out Enid can't fully turn into a werewolf yet, and we're going to have a bonding moment between Wednesday and Enid, as Enid talks about being alone all her life because she won't be able to be a member of the pack and she might die alone, things like that. We do get a scene because Enid asks Wednesday if she's ever cried. Wednesday says that she did once, and we get a flashback to when she was, I believe it was 6 years old. She had a pet scorpion, and they were walking down the street, and she got bullied, and the bullies ran over the scorpion with their bikes. We get to see her kneeling in front of the scorpion's headstone, and the scorpion's name was Nero. Now, moving on, we're going to flash to Tyler's house, to his room. He opens the window, and there is Thing. Thing comes in. Tyler's trying to kill Thing. He uses a baseball bat. He bashes up some things in his room before Thing throws the baseball bat across the room. And once he actually sits down, Thing is going to push the phone towards him and raise up his hand, and we see a message from Wednesday for Tyler to call her. And at this point, she is using Enid's computer. She asked her to use it a little earlier. They're going to make plans once again to get Wednesday out of town, and they're going to do that at the carnival. So flashing to the carnival, everybody's going to be showing up. We see Tyler, we get to see Xavier, we get to see Ms. Weems, we get to see the therapist. Pretty much everybody's there. And Wednesday's going to be throwing darts at the balloons. She doesn't miss. She's eventually going to win the panda, and she actually pays the guy running the booth to take the panda over to Ms. Weems because Ms. Weems is watching her, and she's trying to get a distraction. So once she's distracted, Wednesday runs off. She meets up with Tyler. Tyler gives her the file about her father, and they get ready to run off when Rohan runs by and bumps into Wednesday. She's going to have a vision, and that vision is of Rowan basically getting killed. Now, one of the other things that had happened here is they were running away from the three guys earlier that were in the pilgrim uniforms, and that's when they ran into Rowan. Wednesday's going to think something is wrong, so she's actually going to run into the woods to help Rowan, and it turns out that he is actually supposed to kill her. He uses his power to throw her up against a tree, and he tells her basically that his mom had drawn that picture 25 years ago, and that before she died, she had told him that he had to stop that girl from ruining Nevermore. And so while he's got Wednesday up against the tree, something's going to attack. And we get to see the monster that has been attacking. It has huge bubble eyes that are sort of out of its head. Wednesday's going to fall to the ground, and she's going to retrieve the picture that falls onto Rowan's body, and we're going to skip to our next scene, which is Wednesday talking to Morticia and Gomez. They had left her crystal ball, and they're talking, and Wednesday's going to tell them that maybe she's going to like it there after all. And of course, all this comes after all the death and near destruction that has been being caused, so this is the perfect place for her. Now that we've finished the recap, I do want to talk about a few thoughts and reactions I've had to this first episode. And the first thing I want to talk about is how great this cast is. One of the big issues I have with a lot of this genre, young adult fantasy, is that when they do them, especially on Netflix, they use a lot of actors we either don't know or they're just bad. And I'm going to say, while a lot of these actors I don't know, I don't think I had ever actually heard of Jenna Ortega. I know she's been in the reboot of Scream and Netflix's You, but I really hadn't seen anything with her. I don't remember her from those, but she is absolutely killing it as Wednesday Addams. I think she has nailed the performance so far. Just some of the things they have her doing. She's very sort of morbid. She's going to have psychic abilities, but she brings a little bit of humanity to it too. And I think that's important. And I really enjoy the way they have her personality, and she always has these comebacks, and it makes her sound like this really weird, really like bad person, but she's really not. And so I really enjoyed her performance in this first episode, and I'm sure that's not going to change. Catherine Zeta-Jones as Morticia. I'm just going to say this. It's Catherine Zeta-Jones. I love Catherine Zeta-Jones, and I thought she nailed that performance as Morticia perfectly. I love the chemistry between her and the chemistry between Morticia and Gomez. I thought they did a really good job there in the casting, because you get to see that Luis Guzman as Gomez, they really match up together well. And so I really like this casting. It is much better done than a lot of this young adult type fantasy that they do out there. And I think that's one of the reasons why this show is so good and it's gaining so much support. Other shows need to take a note here. Second thing I'm just going to point out is you can't take this show too seriously. And, you know, it's got a hand walking around, its own personality. You can't take this too awful seriously. And I think that is shown in this monster that they have created. Sort of bug-eyed. It sort of looks like a werewolf that maybe has not transformed. And so it's really spooky. It's scary, sort of, but maybe not. And I think that fits with the tone of Wednesday so far. And I think that has been very good. Also, something that jumps out of me is how they're contrasting the colors, especially Wednesday's all black and white versus the color of someone like Enid, who has all these colors of the rainbow and everything else in her room, and she's all very happy. Wednesday's sort of subdued. And I like how they're playing that off against each other in the show so far. I also like the fact that they're really playing this up to be a mystery, seeing how these people are being torn apart. Why did the monster kill Rowan? Why is the monster there in the first place? It did insinuate at one point that the monster actually saved Wednesday, and that's not something I would have picked up on at first, but that is something that was actually said later on. But I also like the fact that going along with that, while we've seen a monster, we've seen Rowan use magic, we've seen Wednesday get psychic premonitions. They haven't thrown all the magic in this world out there to us yet. And so I'm going to be interested to see where that goes. I'm always up for magic. The more, the merrier. The other big thing that jumps out to me, and this is the last thing I'm going to mention right now, is, and it goes back to the casting, is the chemistry between our main characters. So far, the characters that really seem to be going together, 5 that stand out for me of the younger cast are, of course, Wednesday, Bianca. I know she is meant to sort of be Wednesday's nemesis, but she sort of stands out. She does seem to have a little chemistry there with Wednesday. Then you have Tyler and Xavier, who may have some type of feelings eventually for Wednesday. We'll see how that turns out. And then Enid. And all of them seem to have a very good chemistry. And then you throw in the rest of the characters, the adult characters, and I think the group together makes a very good ensemble. Now, with that said, I'm going to give a grade out for Wednesday, and I'm going to give this first episode an A-. I really like this episode. There was nothing in this episode that I didn't like, so I think it totally deserves an A-. I want to leave some room for future episodes. Now, I hope you enjoyed the recap and review. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment below. And I'll see you next time on the Fandom Realm.